How's it going, everyone? Happy New Year. Now, right off the bat, I can't stress enough that you really should be grinding for a good shout ASAP. And this week, the last week of the Dawning, is double focus drops on whatever activity you're playing. So if you see the crossbow available, you might want to change your plans for the session and go and grind it instead. Because honestly, there's 3 really important reasons why you should grind this crossbow, even if you have a good roll on another one. A good shout puts out better DPS than mint and finalities, even if you get body shots. It has an actually infinite ammo rotation. And lastly, it's farmable in solo ops. Now, a good shout is bringing something to the table that none of the other crossbows can do, including the raid crossbow. And I was not kidding when I said that this was doing better than the mint and finalities combo that players use to beat the contest dungeon with. With a non-optimized loadout and hitting body shots, this combo is doing a higher DPS than the mint combo, and it has infinite sustain because it's completely infinite ammo. Which I'm going to explain in a bit, but I really can't stress enough right at the beginning how good this crossbow actually is. Also at the end, I have a pretty big announcement, so you'll want to stick around for that. Now let's get into it. Now I know it seems that I've hyped this weapon up a lot, but you're probably wondering, what does it actually do that's special from the other crossbows? And the answer is Envious Arsenal. For anyone not familiar with how this perk works, dealing damage with both other weapons before readying this weapon refills it from reserves. This perk has been the go-to perk for DPS rotation since it was released. And when used in just the right way on a good shout, it results in the fastest firing crossbow in the entire game. But for now, let me go over the whole crossbow other than Envious Arsenal. The other perks on a good shout actually synergize with Void really well. In the left, we have Withering Gaze and Repulsor Brace, and then in the right, we have Destabilizing Rounds and Demoralize. So you have a lot of freedom if you want something that can dip into the Void subclass verbs. But for damage perks, it really only has one that's suitable for DPS, and that's High Ground. You've also got Rampage in the right column, which would be a 33% damage increase at max stacks, but that's going to be real tedious to get and then keep going during DPS, so I really think High Ground is the only realistic option for damage. If we'd been given Vorpal, this crossbow would be the most coveted weapon in the entire game, but maybe we'll get that on another crossbow in the future. Now, as for origin traits, a good shout has 3 possible options: Accelerated Assault, Problem Solver, and Vanguard Determination. Starting with arguably the weakest one is Vanguard Determination, which I personally love on Ad Clear weapons. It gives you a 6% damage resist when using it, and it's, look, not the strongest option, but if you're going to use the crossbow for Ad Clear with the Void's synergy, consider this trait. The next origin trait is Accelerated Assault, and this is actually the hidden origin trait available on some of the weapons this season. And it's not available on every drop. You're going to have to get lucky when grinding for the crossbow if you want this. What Accelerated Assault actually does is increases the damage and the reload speed when dealing sustained damage. And when active, this is roughly a 5% damage increase, and any additional damage will reset the perk timer to 4 seconds. And finally, the last and probably best origin trait is Problem Solver. Very similar to Accelerated Assault, dealing sustained damage to champs, mini-bosses, or bosses will exhaust them, and improves handling and reload. It actually only takes 3 shots from the crossbow to be considered sustained damage for Problem Solver, and that boosted handling feels really good. Honestly, I think Problem Solver is the best of all 3 origin traits for this DPS rotation. When active, the rotation involved with Envious Arsenal becomes very smooth, and the difference between the perk being active and not active is extremely noticeable. If you're looking to have the most optimized roll possible, then Accelerated Assault will result in a slightly higher DPS overall, but then you will be searching for a very specific 6 out of 6 roll because you'll need to boost the handling via all of the other options available, including the rail and the masterwork, which is really going to increase your grind time by many hours. Now, I'll cover what I'd consider the god roll in a bit, But first, I want to cover how a good shout actually compares to the other heavy crossbows. Opaque Hourglass from the Desert Perpetual raid has the best damage perk options out of all of the crossbows available. And so it should. It's a raid weapon, it should have the best damage perks, but the rest of its perks aren't as strong as Envious Arsenal. It's got Impulse Amplifier and Field Prep as the only two reload options available, but these only boost the base reload, so there's no way to skip the reload animation. And this downtime will hurt its DPS. Submersion can get access to auto-loading holster and aggregate charge, which is going to be your DPS option, and this can be useful for damage rotations, especially if you're running Hierarchy of Needs. You can fire a shot of Submersion every time it's reloaded to take advantage of the tracking ring, but auto-loading holster has a fixed 3.5 second timer on activation, which means it's much slower than Envious Arsenal. Regarding the subclass synergies, a good shout has great void synergy options available through its perk pool. Submersion has access to Chill Clip, which is great for stunning overloads and for stasis subclass synergy, while Opaque Hourglass only has Rolling Storm, which is great for getting an initial Bolt Charge stack, but Bolt Charge doesn't have anti-champion capabilities and requires time to get the stacks to 10. Which really makes a good shout stand out from the other options available. Now, I've hinted at the damage rotation, but let me explain exactly how it's working. We're taking advantage of how Envious Arsenal actually works. While it's holstered, you need to deal damage with both your other weapons. So if we hit the target with a weapon that does damage over time, we can effectively ignore swapping back to that gun until it stops ticking, allowing us to swap back and forth between 2 weapons instead of 3. And as you can see, it's pretty crazy how fast I can actually just go back and forth. I've got some tips for swapping back and forth as well. If you're on mouse and keyboard, you can hold the fire button down and just press the swap buttons to go from your heavy to your alternate weapon and back again. The game will shoot as soon as it's able to if you hold the trigger. Console can do exactly the same thing, but because you have to hold the swap button to switch from any other weapon to heavy, it's a bit harder to make this as fast as possible unless you remap your controls. Now, as I said, we need a damage over time weapon, and there are a few sources of dot damage that you can use in Destiny. The best option hands down is Witherhoard. Compared to other options, Witherhoard ticks for longer, meaning you have more time to do that damage rotation. And this season, with the artifact mod, Kinetic Synthesis, using Witherhoard will generate ammo bricks, giving us infinite special ammo. Not that any DPS phase in this entire game will last long enough for us to use all the Witherhoard ammo anyway, but it's the principle that matters. Your other options are Area Denial GLs. In the Kinetic slot, we have Festival Flight from the Solstice of Heroes event, which could roll with Envious Arsenal if you have one, or Lost Signal, which is craftable and has auto-loading holster. In the Energy slot, we have Psycho Pump, VS Velocity Baton, and then the new GL called Motif. Don't bother with Velocity Baton, it doesn't have an auto-loading option, so it's useless. Psycho Pump has Envious Arsenal, but you can't grind it anymore, so that leaves us with Motif, which can be farmed right now, and it can get auto-loading, along with Attrition Orbs for Surges, so it's easily the best in-slot option anyway. Whichever option you pick, you have to make sure that your teammates aren't running the exact same option. Having multiple of the same source of damage over time doesn't actually deal any damage, so you can't use it to trigger Envious Arsenal. You can use different sources of dot damage, but using the same weapon won't work. So if you're in a team where everybody plans to do this, it will require some coordination so that you don't double up on weapons. Now, depending on your weapon, your rotation will change slightly. If you're running Witherhoard and your swapping is on point, you can fire all 10 crossbow shots before having to shoot Witherhoard again. If you're using any of the Area Denial GLs, you only have time to shoot 7 heavy crossbow shots if you're perfect. I typically like to just round it off to 5 and reapply because working in 5s or 10s is just mentally easier. Once you've decided on your dot weapon, you'll need to pick the second weapon to pair into the rotation. For ease of use, consistency, and to have infinite ammo, any primary weapon with high handling works just fine. Heat weapons are especially good because they have inbuilt auto-loading that essentially reloads one bullet at a time. But if you're able to run double special, then you can run something like a grenade launcher in the rotation to increase your DPS and total damage, and you can always loadout swap back to a primary weapon when you run out of ammo. The best setup is Witherhoard, Will to Flight from Rite of the Nine, with Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch, and then of course a good shout. This will be the highest DPS possible. And I wasn't kidding earlier about this being better than Mint. If you want to compare these rotations at just their base form, just using Mint and finalities, the DPS was worse than hitting body shots with the crossbow, when it's designed to be hitting precision. But even if you want to max it out with a debuff, comparing the best setup for Mint and Sire Turner and Finalities Augur, all with 5 times elemental honing and set up before DPS, versus just an Orpheus Rig Hunter with the crossbow, not to mention that the Hunter has infinite DPS, because you can collect the crossbow ammo and just keep going. And that's why I think it's so strong, and I'm surprised I haven't seen more of this. Now, if you want to know what I think is the god roll for a good shout, you only need Envious Arsenal, and maybe High Ground. Everything else is optional and nice to have, but the gun is perfect with just Envious Arsenal. But if I had to list the perfect roll perk for perk, it would be Ultralight Rail with a Handling Masterwork for the fastest swap speed possible, Heavy Bolts, Envious Arsenal, High Ground, and Accelerated Assault for the best damage. So yeah, I hope this has brought a good shout to your attention and made you realize just how good it is. If you found this video helpful, please remember to leave a like, and if you found my other content either helpful or enjoyable, please consider subscribing too, it'd really mean a lot. Now, for my announcement. If you're still watching this will have been my first video of 2026, and it's time to announce that I have a Discord server. Anyone and everyone can join. I've had a few people asking in comments and while I've been streaming if there's a server that they can join, and now we have it. It's still a work in progress, so you'll have to excuse the construction tape, but if you're looking for help in games like Destiny or just want to come and hang out, please feel free to join the server. Maybe you'll even be able to find a group of people through the server that you can game with frequently, like I have. I'm looking forward to seeing new people in the server, and good luck grinding this weapon. So, as always, have a wonderful rest of your day.